We've been following the Michigan Arab voters organized boycott of the Joe Biden 2024 ticket, and they put that in ink. They formalized that this week, putting it in writing. Here is a press release signed by over 30 officials in and around the city of Dearborn, Michigan, which is has the largest population of Arab voters in the state by far. 300,000 Arab voters in Michigan, many of whom, if not most of whom, according to the latest poll we have on this, planning to boycott the Biden ticket. So this is the press release. Russell, could you full screen that and read that because it's too small on my screen?
Yes, I can.
Beautiful.
Fellow Michiganders, we, the undersigned, unite with profound concern for our cherished nation. The ongoing tragedy in Gaza is an affront to our shared humanity. Nearly 30,000 Palestinians have been massacred by the Israeli government, and more than 2 million have been displaced. Individuals, international governments, countless elected officials, and global institutions have risen up in protest, demanding an immediate ceasefire. Yet those in the halls of power refuse to act. As representatives of our great nation, we stand firmly with the people, unwavering in our solidarity. Let us be clear. We unequivocally demand that the Biden administration immediately call for a permanent ceasefire in Gaza. We must hold our president accountable and ensure that we, the American taxpayers, are no longer forced to be accomplices in a genocide that is backed and funded by the United States government. Therefore, we pledge to check the box for uncommitted on our ballots in the upcoming presidential primary election. These are not empty words. They signify our steadfast commitment to justice, dignity, and the sanctity of human life, which is greater than loyalty to any candidate or party. On February 27, 2024, join us as we vote uncommitted on our presidential primary ballots and work to restore decency in the White House.
And then in devoted service, here are the undersigned. So if you look at, we don't have to read all these names, but obviously some pretty significant names here. The mayor of Dearborn, the mayor of Dearborn Heights, city councilmen, mayors from the surrounding towns and cities. You have state representatives, deputy county people. You have just a huge list of pretty prominent names within the Michigan Democratic Party saying that they are organizing a boycott of the Biden ticket, and we're going to see how many of those uncommitted votes show up on the primary. That's what he's talking about, February 27th. But obviously, they're planning to do the exact same thing in the general election. And this is now becoming a five-alarm fire for the Biden campaign. There's no other way to put this. You know, going into this 2024 cycle, the conventional wisdom was, and still is, that the big three swing states are Pennsylvania, Arizona, Georgia. The idea is whoever wins 2 out of 3 is almost certain to win the White House. I think now, at this point, you add Michigan to that list. It's now a big 4. Like, Michigan is now in the list because there have always been stories where we think, ooh, because this happened, maybe there will be a surprise in November, right? Minnesota. People thought Minnesota was going to go red because the George Floyd protest. They thought there was going to be a Nixon-like backlash to those George Floyd riots. And so, will Minnesota go red because of this? There was never really polling to indicate that. It was close, but Biden maintained a steady, 2 to 4 point lead in the state. So there was like a theory that made sense, but didn't really translate into any hard data. That's not the case here. If you look at the polling out of Michigan, very, very, very bad news for Joe Biden. Trump now leads by an average of 5.1 points in the aggregate of all these Michigan polls. You see, of the previous, 7 polls there, Biden only led in 1, and that was within the margin of error. Whereas every other poll, you have Trump leading outside the margin of error, +5, +5, +10, +8, +5. This could spell doom for Biden in Michigan. And, if the Democrats lose Michigan, there's just no path. I mean, at that point, you're really, you're not going to lose Michigan and win Arizona, right? I mean, the math just doesn't work for you at that point. And so this is huge. This is huge.
Yeah. it's finally come, and you saw the beginnings of that in the last election. Of course, the Arab and Muslim community has a lot to do with this. But hey, what? Trump is getting 22% of the black vote now. He's getting half of the Latino vote. The last I saw, around half of the Latino vote. Um, you saw that in the last election in 2020, in spite of Trump's loss, he did better with non-white voters than any Republican since Nixon.
Right.
So, this trend is just continuing, where more and more people, as in that classic article in the New York Times Illustrated of black voters in Milwaukee who refused to vote for Hillary, said, "Hey, Obama didn't do anything for us, so why would we go vote for Hillary?" I think even more so now with Joe Biden, people are saying, "Hey, why are we gonna go vote for Democrats? In the end, things were better actually under Trump." Now, I'm not saying, we're not fans of Joe Biden here. There are certain elements of the economic cycle, also COVID. Who knows what a post COVID economy would have looked like under Trump? So, taking all that into account, listen, people don't think that way. They look at how things are for them currently and how things were for them before. And when you combine that with the fact that, particularly with Joe Biden, the Democratic Party has taken non-white voters for granted forever. And with Biden, it's just glaringly obvious that he doesn't. Not only doesn't he give a shit about these people, unless he's very tightly scripted, his basic contempt and condescension, "You don't vote for me, you ain't black" shit comes out whenever he's speaking extempore. If you remember that was with Latino groups, right? Where that tape leaked, where he's just talking to them like the help. This was like he's just
Well, he was telling
yelling.
that tape was he was telling black voters that their priorities are going to have to take a back seat to Latino voters because there are more Latinos than black people now. I think that
Y-
was what the gist of that was. I may
Yeah,
have it reversed, but that was the gist of it. The gist of it is
uh,
we prioritize people according to how many of you there are because that's what's in it for us is the votes.
right, right. They never called me boy. They always called me son.
Right.
I mean, that gives you an insight into how this guy thinks. That he's looking back now. Not this isn't something he said 50 years ago. This is how he opened his campaign, talking about what a good relationship he had with segregationists and how they didn't call him boy. What are you thinking to say? Well, you understand why they didn't call you boy, right? You
Right.
get
Yeah.
that,
Well, yeah.
right?
Pretty
Like
obvious.
what the
Doesn't
fuck
take
are
a
you
genius.
talking about, you sick fuck?
Yep.
And hey, we're not Trumpers. We just over on Jimmy's show did a whole segment about how Trump's not anti-war. It's not about, oh, MAGA, yeah, he's great. But listen, man, he undid some of the sentencing guidelines of Joe Biden's co-written with segregationist crime bill. Have you seen Joe Biden do that since he's been in office? He's in office. That was a great opportunity for him to completely repudiate his past in that regard. He hasn't done that. He advocated, and I think they did increase funding for police.
They did, sure, sure. And in this
Oh,
case, it's not just a question of are Democrats doing anything for you. In the case of Arab voters, it's what Democrats are helping
right,
Israel do to you, right?
right,
They're actually doing something to you. They're actually murdering your people.
right,
You have a lot of people in Dearborn with family in Gaza, in the West
right,
Bank.
right,
This is not something they're just going to let go, right?
right. Yes, this is kind of the tip of the spear, I think, of an overall trend where the Democrats have taken non-white voters for granted forever, and it's coming home to roost.
Please clap.